Imagine our world, but darker, more terrifying. All the boogeymen of our childhoods are real. Monsters under the bed, vampires in alleyways, werewolves in the forest, cackling mages in old mansions, and ghosts in the cemetery. And you're the big dummy who gets caught up with them. Welcome to Chronicles of Darkness. Cue the music! Hey guys, welcome to another episode of D&D Versus. I'm Lonram, and I'll be comparing Chronicles of Darkness with D&D 5th Edition, hopefully giving you a good baseline for what the RPG system is like. Now let's be clear about one thing up front, because this is a touch confusing over the past decade here. We have World of Darkness, which is created by White Wolf Publishing, and then Chronicles of Darkness by Onyx Path Publishing, licensing the World of Darkness stuff. I know it's kind of weird, especially since Onyx Path actually helps make some World of Darkness stuff. Doesn't matter. All we're covering is the Onyx Path Publishing stuff known as the Chronicles of Darkness. This is the newer stuff that has come out recently. There's new other stuff coming out, but we'll cover that later, another time. Both of them have big product lines. You'll probably have heard of Vampire the Masquerade. Well, there's also Vampire Requiem. There's Werewolf the Apocalypse, Werewolf the Forsaken. All those don't matter. Not covering those now. We're just covering the baseline of Chronicles of Darkness 2nd Edition. First and foremost, the Chronicles of Darkness is set in our world, or one very, very like it. Same streets, same houses, same bodega on the corner. You can set it in your own hometown, which actually helps really ground the horror in the game, because you know exactly the house that they're talking about, exactly the dirt road that you don't want to go down. Or you can set it in someplace familiar like New York, London, Hong Kong, wherever you like. However, these city streets are a little bit darker, more terrifying than our own. Not necessarily grittier with like more crime or an impending apocalypse, though that could happen, but where when people go missing, there's a mystery to it, there's a question about it. It's not just were they kidnapped or were murdered or ran away, but you wonder, is there something darker going on? Well, the teens went to the quarry and nobody ever comes back from the quarry, or, well, they were playing Truth or Dare and went into the mansion that nobody ever comes out of. Questions like that, though those are a bit cliche. Most of humanity considers themselves above all that ancient superstition. They claim to be not afraid of the dark, but when they see something that they don't know and they don't know how to handle, they just tell themselves, oh, it's not real. I didn't actually see that. That was a couple making out in an alleyway, not a vampire feeding from his victim. As a player, you are drawn into a mystery. Missing people, bizarre clues, visions and dreams. Something catalyzes a drive in your character to discover what's out there. Sometimes you're thrown into it, and sometimes you voluntarily step into it. In Chronicles of Darkness, as a troop of vanilla mortals, dread and mystery are your constant companions. Depending on the story that you're playing, the party is usually up against some kind of huge conspiracy that permeates all levels of society, or it's just something so unbelievable you couldn't even go to the authorities, or worse, nobody else will be able to even do anything, and it's up to you. There may be some allies that the troop can call on, but they are probably the lesser of two evils, or crazed and enigmatic, or just completely not trustworthy. It's not going to be fair to the player characters, and they're going to lose things affected by what they've seen, but that's what you pay for delving into the darkness. The Chronicles of Darkness force you as a vanilla mortal, maybe with a little extra stuff, we'll talk about that later, to confront things that are beyond what you can handle normally. You make sacrifices, you delve into dark mysteries, you might literally give yourself over to the darker powers in order to stop them from hurting your loved ones. However, you are still a player character. You're still a hero, though maybe not in a very traditional sense. So you have attributes, you have all your skills and dice rolls and everything like that to make you actually be a little bit more than a vanilla mortal. Player characters in Chronicles of Darkness have 9 different stats that are kind of sorted in a 3x3 grid. You have power stats, you have finesse stats, and you have resistance stats. And those are going to be physical, mental, or social. So as an example, your power stats are going to be strength, intelligence, and presence. You will combine these with your skills, which also fall into the same physical, mental, or social tracks, and combine them so you'll have strength plus weaponry, as an example. If you don't actually have a weaponry skill, you can still roll. You'll just usually take some kind of penalty. When building a character, you don't actually roll for stats like you would in D&D. You actually pick them based on a priority track. So you'll prioritize either physical, mental, or social. So you could focus on social aspects. So you want to be conniving and persuasive, or just have really high social composure. You're just unflappable. And then you'll make physical your secondary, so you're a little bit beefy, maybe you're agile and athletic, but not nearly as good as social. And then mental will be your kind of weak point. None of these puts you in a complete detriment, but it lets you kind of focus where your character is at. And then you have skills. Follows the same thing. You prioritize physical, mental, or social. And these can be different from your attribute stuff. So you may be physically prioritized and be beefy and dexterous and just hardy, and then actually focus on social skills as your priority. So you have a ton of different selections like that to help round out the fact that you actually might be attribute-wise short on social, or you can double up. I'm super strong and I'm focused on physical attributes. I'm just going to be a bruiser. You can totally do that. Dice rolls then are a combined pool of D10s in Chronicles of Darkness. So using the classic I want to hit something example, you will take your dexterity plus a weaponry roll. So I've got 3 strength and 2 weaponry. That's my pool of 5. I roll those 5, and 8s, 9s, and 10s are successes. Yay for those. 10s are special because you get to re-roll them and possibly get more successes, which could themselves be 10s, which you would then re-roll. If you're really good at a skill, you might actually have it the 9 again rule or the 8 again rule, which is the same as the 10 again rule, where you'll re-roll. So you could potentially have a lot of extra successes coming out of nowhere. Unfortunately, you might be cursed, and all of a sudden you actually lose the 10 again rule, and now you don't even get to reroll 10s. Bummer! One of the most integral parts of a character is called their integrity. See? Integral integrity. And this is it's how whole you are, right? Integrity. This is how you are dealing with the situation. This is how you are dealing with the world around you, and sometimes terrible things happen and force a breaking point in that structure, in your integrity. This might be killing somebody. This might be seeing a dead body. This might be actually being blackmailed. This could be very, very mundane stuff depending on how you create your character. And this is a really cool thing here. You'll work this out with your storyteller when you create your character. There are 5 questions that you'll talk with the DM about, the storyteller, and come up with where your character lives in the real world. You'll ask, what is the worst thing your character has ever done? What is the worst thing your character can imagine himself doing? What is the worst thing your character can imagine someone else doing? What is the thing your character has forgotten? And what is the most traumatic thing that has ever happened to your character? In answering these questions, it is totally okay to come up with a normal person. I've played with a player who literally was a cook. Average run-of-the-mill cook who had his kind of side job doing a cooking show. Small potatoes guy. And he was a cook. Was thrown into this supernatural adventure. So he had breaking points everywhere. I was playing a hardened detective, homicide, organized crime. I'd seen it all. So when we came across a dead body, my character did not have a freak out, did not have a breaking point. My buddy Perry, however, yeah, he lost his stuff. When a character encounters a breaking point, something that pushes him out far off the edge, dead bodies, supernatural creatures, blackmail, anything that pushes them outside their normal comfort zone, beyond just like, oh, I have to talk to new people. You will roll a resolve and composure, so your mental and social resistance stats. And based on your roll, you may lose a point of integrity, or you may compose yourself, resolve to stand steady. And if you succeed, all you got to do is roll a 8, 9, or 10, then congratulations, you've made it through, and now you have a condition. If you fail, congratulations, you've lost a point of integrity, and you have a condition. Conditions are buffs and debuffs that are part of the Chronicles of Darkness ecosystem for experience points. When you resolve a condition, you gain a beat. 5 beats equals 1 XP, and then you'll spend XP on stuff. Cover that later. How do you resolve a condition? Well, you actually give in to the condition. So in the case of being shaken as part of a breaking point and you've seen something terrible, you actually, with that condition, you're shaken, you actually continue playing as normal. But on your decision, you can decide, no, the fear has gotten to my character enough, I'm going to flee the scene, I'm going to run away, I'm going to run out of the room, whatever. Something that puts a detriment to you and the party on your decision, congratulations, here's a beat. It actually promotes your character's failing forward, so to speak. You can take a condition, you can be afraid, you can be spooked, you can actually be beat down in a fight. As long as you didn't die, you're beat down, you surrender, well, congratulations, you get a beat. So you progress forward. Now, of course, you win the fight, you'll also get a beat. So conditions from gameplay are one path to gaining XP. The other one is aspirations. These are aspirations. These are plans and goals that either you have for the character. So I totally want my character to meet a werewolf. Character might have a problem with that. That's probably not his decision. However, your character might also have a plan to, open a bar. I would pick something a little bit more in line with the story, but as you work, you can pick short-term aspirations that are things that you could probably do in one scene, one session, or a long-term aspiration. In the case of a short-term one, as soon as you complete it, congratulations, here's a beat. A long-term aspiration might be to infiltrate the Miskatonic University, Cthulhu stuff, As long as you are making progress, every scene that you make progress towards that, you get a beat. There's some restrictions, so you can't abuse it and stuff like that. And it's up to the storyteller to decide, hey, that's actually enough progress. You can't just call and be like, oh, well, that's it, I called, that's it, and get a beat. Then, of course, you get beats of XP for completing a scene, good role play, just showing up for a session. As long as you're doing stuff, you're going to be accumulating beats. 5 beats, 1 XP, and depending on what you want to improve, that could be 1 XP or 5 XP or 3 XP. It depends on the thing that you're buying. What can I buy with XP? I'm glad you asked. So you can obviously increase your attributes, your skills, but then you also have something called merits. These are super cool bonuses, things like danger sense, or a fighting style, or telekinesis, or psychokinesis, pyrokinesis, or, whatever the kinesis you like. Biokinesis is in there too. These different things help you shape your character, and with some of the more supernatural characters that we'll cover in a different video, these are how you accumulate spells and other powers and things like that. One of the cool things about these merits is some of them are going to be intrinsic to who your character is. I have danger sense. I'm aware at all times of bad people. But you could also have a merit like, I have some staff that help me with things. Bear in mind, this staff is actually a game mechanic. You could have a character who's rich and has staff. Well, that's useless staff. They're there to look pretty and give your character some background. But if you actually put points into it, into the merit of having useful staff, then they can do some special things according to the merit. But say something happens to that staff. Say your mansion comes under attack by zombies and everybody's dead. Well, you don't have that staff no more. Well, that's okay. You'll actually get the merit refunded back to you, and you can put that into something else. Like, say, well, I had 3 points into my awesome staff. They could do tons of cool stuff for me, and then they all died to zombies. So now I'm going to get training in firearms, specializing in shotguns to deal with the zombie horde the next time they show up. This is called the Sanctity of Merits, and is a way that allows you to put points into something that is relevant now, and then later, as your character progresses and grows, either moves away, changes who he is, things like that, then it makes sense for the merits to move. This is not a bank where you can put points in real quick, use it for a session, pull it back out, put it in something else. It's not for that. This system, Chronicles of Darkness, relies on people playing characters, being an actor, be the character, not being a hack and slash hero. 2 other things round out your character as a whole. You have a virtue and a vice. The virtue is the nice side of you. Your vice is the not so great side of you. You do not have to pick a sin or a virtue biblical style, but those tend to be the common ones. So in the case of my most recent character, I had a very loyal cop who's also kind of cruel. And so based on when you use those in a scene, when you really rely on something being virtuous, and when I play to my loyalty, I restore my willpower. But that's only once per scene. But anytime I give in to my vice, I also restore a little bit of my willpower, but I can do that frequently. So it encourages you to actually play a kind of balanced character. What is willpower, you ask? Well, if you watch my Shadowrun video, it's kind of like Edge. It is the sum total of your resolve plus your composure, similar to your breaking point, is a pool of die that you can throw at stuff. You really, really need to pick this lock so you can escape the police who have uncomfortable questions that they want to ask you. Spend a point of willpower and get a bonus to the roll. You can do other stuff with it. Some merits require it. For instance, telekinesis, pyrokinesis. In order to use that, you have to use a point of willpower, so it's really draining on yourself. You don't have a big pool of this, but it encourages you to play to those virtues and vices to actually restore it so you can keep it going. And one last thing to kind of cover is the way Chronicles of Darkness handles conflict. So let's cover the big one real quick. Yes, combat is totally in this, and for an investigative game, there's going to be some point where you get into a bar brawl, or you gotta beat up some police officer who's part of the conspiracy, or there's a big bad werewolf and you've only got a baseball bat. Good luck, kid! Combat is run through a initiative system that is based on your different finesse stats, and then you roll a d10, and so you get an order that everybody goes in, and then you actually roll similar to most other systems. You'll take whatever relevant attribute you have, so strength plus weaponry, or dexterity plus firearms, and that covers your physical combat. You've got some defense and AC and some stuff like that you can look up. It's all in there. But one of the other things that they did, in order to not bog down what is a social storytelling game, and you have a storyteller, right? It's a storytelling game. You have down and dirty combat, which basically is, I want to do this thing, and it requires me to fight. Well, this guy doesn't want to do that thing, so he's going to fight. Okay, cool. Dice pool, and then it's over. There's just one roll covered in the books that kind of emphasizes, hey, here's this fight, and then we're gonna kind of gloss over it. This is really useful for a bar fight when you're asking a bunch of bikers some questions about who that strange guy that they've been riding with is, and they don't want to answer, and so baseball bat. Very quickly, you can cover an entire combat with you and a couple buddies versus them, their buddies, and boom, everything's done. And you can see how things turned out very, very quickly. No getting things bogged down. But say you don't want it to be a fight. Say you want to just talk to these guys and kind of influence them and work a little more subtly. Well, you actually have a social system called doors that actually codifies out rules for meeting people, getting a first impression with them, spending some time with them to increase their impression with you, and then you can start to manipulate doors. Basically, these barriers that they put in front of you to get them to do that thing that you want. Tell them the secret password. Tell them where the riches are hidden, where the body is buried. This plays really well to social characters like your traditional bard, that they're a face. They're the pleasant fellow to talk to, and they can charm people. You let them loose in the monthly massed gathering of socialites and let them worm their way in and investigate. And this is something that you can cover over, instead of multiple sessions, a couple days in-game can be covered just over a couple minutes while other players are doing their own investigations, because splitting the party is okay. As long as you're not going down different tunnels in the tunnels under the cemetery. Bad idea. When combat is initiated, you declare your intent. What is the point of this fight? In most human-to-human interactions, this is going to be something like, I want to beat them up so they tell me what they know right now. And then it is up to the other team to decide, well, do we surrender that? Because in the case of PCs, you might actually give up in a fight and go, yeah, never mind. You can take my truck, steal my truck, drive off with it, that's fine. I can go get another truck. And just surrender. Hey, congratulations, here's your beat down condition, and you're beat. The beaten down rule is actually an optional rule based on when a player character or NPC takes half their health in bashing damage, really light damage, punching and kicking and stuff like that, oh, hey, never mind. I'm beaten down, I'm going to lay over here. And it actually requires them willpower to get back up and to keep fighting. But it also requires a real effort on the aggressor's side to actually keep fighting somebody who's beat down. This actually creates some interesting story stuff where your buddies who are kind of wimpy in a fight get beat down real quick and, well, they're no help. Oh, it's me and you three. Baseball bat. Baseball bat actually is a good segue. All it takes is 1 point of lethal damage from, say, a baseball bat or a gun or a knife, that all of a sudden, boom, that person is going to be beat down. This gives you a way to also speed up combat when you're dealing with normal run-of-the-mill humans that are just part of everyday society. You come up against a cultist who's completely crazed and wild, might not work. Come up against a vampire, definitely not going to work. He's probably just wanting to kill you. You better keep fighting, buddy, and not get down. There are, surprisingly, no unique races or classes in Chronicles of Darkness. You play humans. Now, there are other books, and like I said, we'll talk about those later, where you can play something more than human. But in just base Chronicles of Darkness, you're a guy or gal with a mystery to solve. And it's up to you to create them, who they are. Are you a down on his luck detective kicked off the police force for asking the wrong questions? Are you a cook who got dragged in by some blackmail and knowing the wrong people, and whoops, now you're stuck in a scary mansion? The character you create is up to you, and because of the vast variety of merits and the priority system for skills, even an average person ends up being really good in some things. You can make whoever you want, and generally speaking, they will be useful in Chronicles of Darkness. You can try very, very hard and not create a useful character, but you really got to try for it. So Chronicles of Darkness is a vastly different system from 5e. We're not using the same dice, we're not using the same die rolls, we're not heroic heroes, off killing monsters. You are ordinary people investigating mystery, and you may get killed for it. You may go mad. Maybe corrupted by the powers of darkness and turn to the dark side. Yeah. And that is it for Chronicles of Darkness, at least the base core book that you can get. There are more books in more lines in the Chronicles of Darkness series. I will cover them in other books too. We have Vampire the Requiem, Werewolf the Forsaken, Mage the Awakening, Changeling the Lost, and there's more coming, but those books aren't out yet, so I'm not even going to say I'm going to cover them until they come out. So make sure you subscribe to know when those come out. See you guys.